Appreciate everybody checking in, everybody. Appreciate you. We the Frenchie checking in. Michelle, I see you. Michelle Lene Shields checking in. See you, Capilat Chico. Appreciate you checking in this week. As always, we're proud to have you in there. See my man Mike in the building. I see you. I see you all checking in. We got a good one tonight. As many of you know, yep, I see you. Appreciate you waving at me. I see you. We have a great show here tonight. If you know anything about the basketball landscape, then you know exactly who we're bringing in tonight. A guy that is a legend in middle school and camps hoops. He's been around for quite a while. Been doing it the right way. Stand up guy. Love this guy. He's really a good guy. We've had a lot of talks, and I'm just proud to know him because he is really just a good guy. And I've been going to his camps for years, and he has great camps. He has great uh, connections in the game. He's a stand-up individual. We all know him as Rob Taylor. He'll be joining us here soon tonight. If you don't know Rob Taylor, many of you have attended maybe Buckeye Prep. I see you, Kendall Brewington, Fasayo. Appreciate you checking in this week. Many of you may have heard of Buckeye Prep. Buckeye Prep camps up in Columbus, Ohio. That is a legendary camp up there that I've seen a lot of kids come through that camp, and I've been going for years. And the man we're talking to tonight, Trey, check on him, is the brain behind it. The man who actually does the reports. He does the camps. He does the photography. He's been involved with the Under Armour. He's been involved with the NYBL. He's just been around for so many years and has helped so many people over the years. And I'm just thrilled to have him. Whenever I go to Columbus, I'm going to his camps. And even when I go to Cleveland for camps, I'll stop through Columbus just to have a talk with this gentleman because the knowledge he sends is remarkable. He's done a lot of things to help us out, get me recruited when we first started, and I made sure that I attended his camps every year because I'm always going to see some of the top players. The top players in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. I mean that whole Northeast area. They're coming through those camps, and then you have a lot that come from, the South, Kentucky and North Carolina and Georgia. You'll see a lot of those at Buckeye Prep. So I definitely recommend you go to that camp if you can get the privilege of going because there's a lot of campers there. There are hundreds of campers there. For the last few years, he's been at Audubon University in Columbus, and at that university, they have a great facility, and you see some of the best players you're going to see in the Northeast. And I always go up there to find players for our events down in North Carolina, because I know if I go up there, I'm going to see the best that Northeast has to offer, and Rob does a real good job at that. At finding those. And so soon as we're about to bring him in just a minute here, we're about to bring him in. I've done enough talking about who he is. Now, if you don't know him, you're about to know him. He's a legend. He's done so much to help us. Let's go ahead and bring in the man himself. Let's bring him in. You guys are in for a treat tonight. We got a great guy here tonight. Rob.
What's up, Lamont?
My guy, Rob Taylor, in the building. I am tickled to death to have you here, man. You
Well,
know,
it's good to be here, brother.
yes,
always enjoy supporting what you do. I mean, you put out a good product with your Get Me Recruited organization. So as soon as you called, it's like, where do I sign up?
Right, right, right. I was telling them before you came on, it's just that, you know, if you're in the Northeast, you at some point in time you got to come through Buckeye Prep, you know. And if they didn't get the opportunity to come through Buckeye Prep, they heard about it. You're not in the Northeast and shoot hoops and don't know who Rob Taylor is. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna toot your horn for you. You don't worry about it. I got you. I got you.
Okay,
but
Lamont.
but
All right,
but they
brother.
need they need to know, Rob, that you know there are certain legends in this game, certain guys that have done it the right way, certain guys that are here for the kids themselves, and we'll get into it a little more. But that's one reason, you know, I've kind of you know, gravitated towards you because I knew you were doing it the right way, and I know that's hard to find in this business, as you know. Um,
Unfortunately, yes.
you know, and
Unfortunately, Lamont.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is. It's tough. So I told them a little bit about you, but why don't you just tell them who you are before we get started?
Sure. As you pointed out, my name is Rob Taylor. I'm the founder and director of the Buckeye Prep Report. Basically, what I've done with the Buckeye Prep Report for over the last 18 years is really try to provide a platform for youth basketball. And I say youth basketball, although I primarily deal with middle school, elementary age kids. You know, there was a time, you know, as my kids were coming through that I covered high school. I pretty much covered everything. And, you know, my general uh, approach was if I'm in the gym, I'm going to cover it. I'm going to write about what I see. I'm going to take pictures. And so whether it's a high school event, a middle school event, if I'm there, you know, I'm going to try to provide a certain level of exposure, you know, for the kids in the gym. So,
Mhm.
as I alluded to, I've been doing it for 18 years. I really kind of started off, I'm assuming that's going to be your next question, you know, what was the genesis of the Buckeye Prep Report and how did we kind of get this thing started? Um, Back when I guess it would be my younger son, Stevie Taylor, was coming up through the grassroots program, specifically, I would say we went to the AAU Nationals when he was, I believe, in the fifth grade.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
while I was at the Nationals, you know, being a basketball fanatic, you know, I watched a lot of basketballs, watched a lot of good kids. So instead of kind of passively watching, you know, I just got out a pad and just started writing down the names, you know, of some of the top kids that I'd seen over the course of that weekend. And about that time, I was the one of the coaches with the Columbus Jaguars, which at the
Okay.
time was one of the top 2010 teams in the country.
Mm.
And I'm proud to kind of point out that, you know, during our run, you know, we had a fifth place finish. We had back-to-back Final Four appearances, and
Okay.
then we finished 12th. So we were legitimately, you know, one of the top three or four teams in the country. And the reason that that is relevant is because being one of those elite teams, you know, we played the best, you know, I knew everybody, they knew
Mm.
me. So kind of getting back to the fifth grade nationals, took down the names, came back home. And at the time I was running our team's website. It was a Columbus Jaguars website, one of the stock websites where you can just
Right.
make you a website. And as part of what we had on that website, I posted those lists of top players. And needless to say, people took a lot of interest in it because at that time, you know, nobody was really talking about doing anything with middle school basketball.
Right.
So all of
Right.
a sudden, word kind of got around that hey, there's a national list of top players on this Columbus Jaguars site. Well, from there, I just kind of built my own website, came up with the name, started with a little magazine that I put together, and Buckeye Prep was born. And,
Really?
since then, as we've had a tremendous amount of success. I've literally been in gyms all across the country, from the
Right.
East Coast, West, North, South. And what really helped propel the Buckeye Prep Report way back when, Lamont, was the fact that, again, my youngest son, he was on one of the top teams in the country, but he was one of the top 2011 kids in the country. I think at one point, Clark Francis ranked him the sixth best or the third best sixth grader in the country. Well, we
Mm,
all know that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but what it does mean is that, we got invitations to the top camps.
mhm.
So before you know it, we're on this decade-long trek all over the country to all the major events in the country. So again, I'm in the gym.
Right.
I'm at these major events with all the top ranked kids. I do what I do. I'm
Right.
taking names, I'm taking pictures, I'm writing stories. So now, you know, it's kind of easy to become an authority when you're kind of surrounded by all
Mm,
of those kids. And I'll give you an example. Some of the things that we've kind of went through. Dinos Trigonis and his Pangos camps. He's got a big camps on the West
mhm.
Coast out in LA, but he was doing regional camps in Atlanta and Chicago and some of the other areas. We had Joe Keller's Phenom camp out in California.
Yeah.
His initial camp had all the top players, in the country
Yeah.
in the class of 2011. We're, talking Austin Rivers, we're talking Tony Roten, a lot of the names at that time, came through that camp. We had Clay Dave's Fab Frost camp, in Atlanta. So, we were really kind of immersed in that. And that's just the top camps. Of course, with the Columbus Jaguars, we were going to the top tournaments around the country as well. So, I was there, saw everybody, met everybody, and gave as much exposure as I could. So that's really, kind of how we got started,
Really?
18 years ago, Lamont. Yeah.
That's crazy because I don't know why I didn't know all this. Now I knew about Stevie and so forth because he actually came out with mine, Quincy Miller. So I knew of
Okay.
Stevie
Yes, yes.
during that
And,
time.
and Stevie and Quincy are super cool. As a matter of fact, Stevie was, when he was at GA at Boston College, they played, I believe, Florida State or played Miami. And so Steve was down there and he hung out with Quincy. So what you find,
Uh,
you know, just basketball players in general, especially the top guys, they
yeah,
kind of form relationships with each other. And those
yeah,
relationships last, for a
that's right.
lifetime,
That's right.
so, I give you an example, Lamont.
Hmm.
Um, my son was living in Boston doing the GA stint for 2 years. Obviously, you had the Celtics there. I can't tell you how many teams rolled into town that had players that came through AAU with him. So,
Mm,
he's sitting, on the floor at Celtics games because all these players he knew back then was giving him
yeah,
tickets. Same thing
yeah,
now. He's out in Oklahoma City and he's at Oklahoma City games,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
watching games because of the guys that he kind of came up with and was cool with, it hooked him up. So, I know that, relationships in AAU, aren't really valued to the extent that they should,
right.
so people try to trash the relationships. Consequently, way downstream,
Yeah,
you can't lean on them because you've
that's
just disrespected them, over the course of your career. So
right.
again, kind of getting back, that's really the kind of genesis of, how Buckeye Prep started.
Yeah. Now, and during that, interesting. You said you were a parent then. Now, being that you've already went through all this as a
Yeah.
scout evaluator, how much do you miss or did you enjoy just being a parent?
Oh, I tell you. I may say this, at least once every week. I really, really miss AAU basketball from a parental standpoint
Yeah.
because for me, in my family, we pretty much turned our lives over to AAU basketball.
Hmm.
I had a job, I had a career. As you know, I was a federal probation officer for 28 years before I retired. But fortunately for me, I had the type of job where I could go in my office and close the door and I could do Buckeye prep stuff. I could do Columbus Jaguar stuff. And I had the ability to take time off, so, I had the flexibility, to travel all over the country, watching this high level basketball. And, I was both a parent and a coach. So I was really, really immersed in it. And, people don't realize that those years go by extremely fast.
Yeah, man.
And,
Yeah.
they don't really appreciate, really what they're, able to kind of participate in. Because to be in a high level grassroots basketball, watching your child perform, there's really nothing much better. It really cannot be duplicated.
Right.
And, you go from fourth grade to senior in the blink of an eye, and then now all you have are memories. So, yeah, as
Yeah.
a parent, I was immersed. I was a coach. My older son, Robbie, has a grandson who's 6 years old. And, we got him in the gym and he's shown a little promise. And I'm here to tell you, I'm trying to make another run, brother.
Right.
I try, I'm trying to make another run with
Right.
my grandson. Now, the chances of him being as good as, my two sons, both of whom played ball in college for free, we don't know that.
Right. Right. Right.
Time will kind of tell. But can a brother dream?
That's right. Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it, right? Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. Now,
Yes,
now you
yes,
you
yes.
mentioned a minute ago. You mentioned a minute ago. Nice man Rob Taylor that runs Buckeye Prep Report
Yeah.
was a probation officer. How you live that double life of being this nice guy in the gym and then this probation officer during the week, man? What
Sure,
what was that
sure.
like?
Well, I'm going to be real with you, Lamont. The reality is, I was a nice guy with the U.S. Probation Office, and really what that means is that doesn't mean that no, I never filed a violation report, and I never recommended, to a judge that a person, go back to prison. I was forced to do that, but the way that I interacted with my offenders was really from a place of, respect. And, I always treated my offenders as human beings who had made mistakes and who were, in the process of paying their debt to society. Many of them had done a prison term and come out on the outside. Some had avoided prison and were put straight on probation. But again, I always
Mm,
tried to help them, number one, and I tried to treat them, with dignity and respect. I didn't talk down to them. I didn't treat them like second class citizens. And I'd like to
mhm.
think that, the same type of reputation I built over the years with basketball and Buckeye Prep was really the same type of reputation that I was able to foster in my career because that's really kind of who I am, quite
Mhm.
frankly.
Right.
I'm kind of laid back, kind of, realist kind of guy. Really what
Right.
you see is what you get. And as you know, Lamont, there's a lot of bad in grassroots basketball.
Yes.
You can't say that everybody's a good guy or
Right.
everybody's a
That's
good
right.
gal because that's not the case. It can be, very cutthroat. I mean, you
Yeah.
got people, looking for $100,000 scholarships, you know, professional careers. You've got guys, financing their lifestyle, through basketball events. You've got guys who rely on false relationships with top players. You've got program directors who need to win and secure players to keep their shoe company contracts. So it's
Yeah.
very serious business. And, when you talk about high level basketball, until the very end, when it's, there's just no more dreaming left,
Yeah.
people are dreaming about the NBA and, getting called, during the draft and walking on stage and having their people in the green room. Well, people are serious about trying to get that. So just the nature of grassroots basketball in general can be very, very cutthroat. And, I'd like to think that, I really didn't, I didn't take that approach either in grassroots basketball, or my career.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, man. It's I I did collections many years, and like you said, if you treat people with respect and be honest with them, a lot of times you get a whole lot more done. Even when I was a bouncer and a bodyguard, most time people don't want conflict. They really don't. They even when they bark,
Sure,
they really don't
sure.
want it. They want to be heard and understood. And if you do that, most of
Hmm.
the time people will comply. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I totally get you on that. Totally get you on that.
Well, I think one of the keys to both, being successful in a business like the Buckeye Prep Report, over 18 years, being successful in my career, maintaining relationships, it really comes down to communication, Lamont. And what you will find is most people have an inability to communicate. They can't really express their thoughts,
Right.
whether verbally,
Right.
or pen to paper. They can't. So
Right.
there's a whole lot of frustration. But if you can communicate with somebody and really kind of explain why you are where you are, why you made the decision that you made, why, although there's conflict here, that conflict doesn't have to go off the rails. I mean, we can agree to disagree. So I've found that, having the ability to communicate will cause a lot fewer problems, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'll admit that. But I think one of the things that has kind of gotten me through life uh, is the ability to communicate with people. And what you find in this business is people talk. So, Lamont Taylor has a reputation for better or for worse. And fortunately, it's a good reputation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And people kind of know that. So as you're going out trying to do
Right.
business with people, your reputation precedes you. And,
Yeah.
it means something.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've had you know, a lot of success and a lot of ventures that have been successful. One of them being the NYBL. And
Oh, yeah.
many people know you from the NYBL and
Mm-hmm.
associate you with the NYBL and it start. So how did that really come about, the whole
Sure, sure.
NYBL thing?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say that I'm extremely proud of my experience with the NYBL. And I'll tell you exactly how it started. One day I was in my office, I received a call from a guy by the name of John Cross, who I had met coming up. He coached a team out of Atlanta, one of the top teams. He had some of the top players in the country. What's his name? Sean, who played for Ohio State. I'll think of it here in a few minutes. But he called me and said, "Hey, Rob, me and a guy, we want to start a national basketball league. And, is that something that you're interested in? And can you help us?" Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at that point there was no National Basketball League, youth
Right.
basketball league.
Right.
It wasn't even a concept. So,
Right.
like I do, I said, yeah, I will do it. And basically, I guess one of my biggest claims and my contribution to the NYBL kind of goes back to what we kind of already talked about, which is reputation. So
Mm-hmm.
because of the reputation, that I had built over years coaching, going to major events, doing the Buckeye Prep Report. When I reached out to coaches and
Mhm.
kind of sold them the vision, I was able to get these crusty, distrustful guys to send us $1,200 for a first year event that had never happened. Now, I'd like to think everybody can't do that, Lamont. I mean, you
Right.
just call someone, say, hey,
That's
we're going
right.
to do this, send us $1,200.
Right.
That's not happening. So,
Right.
but again, I'd like to think, my ability to communicate, my reputation that I built over the years, there was some credibility on the other
Right.
end of that phone call. So I
Yeah.
was able to convince, these coaches of these top, and we're talking about the top teams in the country, to kind of get on board. So that's really how it was launched. So initially, I sold the vision. I made all the calls. I locked in
Mhm.
all the coaches. So
Mhm.
I was really the face of the league. Really, the entire time I was there, I was the face of the league,
Mhm.
which ultimately kind of put me in some situations. But I'll get to that later. But I was the face of the league. I recruited
Mhm.
everybody. I was a conduit of information and whatnot. As the league started, I was also obviously the primary media outlet. So, through my Buckeye Prep Report platform, I'm covering all the events. I'm doing rankings. I'm doing uh, first team all sessions, second team all sessions. We're taking pictures.
Oh
We're
wow.
doing yeah, we're doing we did some really, really good stuff. Me and a guy by the name of Drew Brailsford out of DC, he kind of really helped me out on the media side, in terms of writing stories and producing a lot of things. And not only did the league become, the premier league and arguably the premier grassroots basketball event in the country from a media standpoint, nobody was pumping out the kind of media, that we were pumping out. Consequently,
Mhm.
it just really blew up because now
Right.
people can see all these top kids. We had video, and not only do we have the NYBL website, but we have my Buckeye Prep Report website. So you had these two platforms, pumping
Right.
out all of this information. So we really, really kind of blew up. And I'll tell you, let me just go through just a couple of the players that was in that initial season of the
Yeah.
NYBL. Um, Rowan Barrett, he played for Duke, who was a number 2
Yeah.
draft pick. We had Wendell Moore, who's playing at Duke. We had Brian Anton and Scotty Lewis.
Mhm.
Brian is playing for Villanova. Scotty's playing for Florida. Nico Manu's playing for Arizona. Tyrese Maxey, who's playing for Kentucky. Jeremiah Francis playing for North Carolina. Chris Harris, Oklahoma State. AJ Hoggard, Michigan State. Balsa Kapovic, Florida State. DJ Jeffries, Memphis. Davion
Mhm.
Harmon, Oklahoma. Vernon Carey, Duke,
Yeah.
so that's just a few.
That's crazy.
We had everybody, Lamont. And so it was really exciting to be, that close and personal with all those top players. And Scotty Lewis, I was the first one to write about him. Saw him in one of the sessions in Georgia. His team was just a pickup team, a replacement team for a team that couldn't make that session. And I saw him and I immediately started pumping out stuff. I mean, the kid,
Right.
and people who follow grassroots basketball know Scotty Lewis. I mean,
Right. 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 Yeah.
he's pretty big time. So I did, I was with the NYBL, for 3 years. And then, as you see happen from time to time, there's just a disagreement with approach and how things were going to operate. And as I kind of pointed out previously, I was the face of the league. So if there
Right.
was any problem, the only one they knew was Rob Taylor, because Rob Taylor's the
Right.
one who called and recruited them. Well,
Right.
if
Right.
there's a problem beyond, my capability and my fault, I'm taking the hit for it because they
Mm.
don't know the other three guys, because there's really four of us who are part of that. So, at some point, I just felt that, my credibility and my name was worth more than what I was getting, out of my association with the NYBL. So I stepped away and went back and concentrated on the Buckeye Prep Report. So
Mm.
it was a very, very difficult decision, Lamont. But,
Mm.
once you lose your good name and once your
That's right.
reputation is tarnished, you can't get it back. So I pretty
Yeah.
much walked away, from my baby. That was my baby. And I walked away from it, and, I'd do it again, if I had to. And
Yeah.
also when we talk about media guys, we also had Mike Melton with Basketball
Yeah.
Spotlight, who
Yeah.
was coming to our events, towards the latter part, and so we just had the media game, on lock.
Yeah.
I don't think we could get me recruited in there. I think you were already too big for us, but we had to work with what we had to work with.
Yeah. I started coming for the when they were going to your event and you would have the All-Star game
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
when I
right. Yeah,
started.
and that was beautiful. With when I was able to kind of blend, my
Yeah.
elite showcase with the
Yeah.
NYBL All-Star game, and it kind of became. So we brought all them top guys,
Yeah.
into Columbus, and it ended up being, a special, just special.
It
That's all I
was,
can say.
man. It was.
It was
It was real
special.
big, man. I loved it.
It was
I
special.
really did. I loved it. And I made sure I didn't miss it. But you kind of answered my question. My next question was, in this business, we see so many come and go. And we see people that
Yeah,
try to
yeah,
be scouts and evaluators. And,
yeah,
they
yeah,
have
yeah.
these, a lot of them, I think, come in thinking that, they're going to come in and make all this money and they're going to become popular because people follow them on Twitter or Instagram, and the
Yeah,
glitz and
yeah.
glamour is really has nothing to do with and doesn't shine on how hard the work is and how dedicated you got to be and the and
Sure.
the and the time it takes away from friends and family and vacations, and you got to plan everything around it. It's really a lot harder than people think it is. And Rob, people say, well, Lamont, you've been around for a long time, and I look at guys like you, and what you just said explains it all. All business, even if it seems to be good, may not be good
Hmm.
for you. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, yes,
you, you
yes,
know,
yes,
our
yes.
me and Rob, and me and you have had drinks in your house and talked some,
Yep,
and
yep,
and
yep.
one of the things I remember us talking about is that what you just talked about is how big our reputation is and how your brand is so important and how you
Sure,
carry
sure.
yourself and your word. You know what I mean? And to me, that separates us from so many that have not been able to
I
sustain
think so.
because they
I think
will
so.
they will have an event or have something just to have an event and just to try to make some money, but it's not a good event when it comes to your reputation. You know what I mean? And
That's
so
right. That's right. That's right.
I've turned away a lot of situations where I may have could have made money, but my reputation and my integrity was way more worth more than what I was going to make in that, right?
Oh, I think you're right on. I think one of the biggest, I guess, approaches to I guess, first of all, let me say this business is extremely difficult
It is.
because, you got to sit in those gyms. I mean, you can't do it from the basement. You have to
Right.
actually be on
Right.
the ground.
You,
And you talk about sitting in a hot gym for
yeah.
3 days, trying
Yeah.
to capture and get information and talk with
Yeah.
players and parents and coaches. Oh, it's extremely difficult. I guess number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to have a certain skill set. Again, you
Mhm.
have to be able to communicate. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to go up and you have to interact with somebody. in a
Right.
manner which is conducive to them giving you information, giving you what you need.
Right.
And then you have to be able to put a couple of words together. You know, you need to put some verbs and some nouns and some periods and some
Yeah.
commas.
Rob.
And
Hey, Rob. Now that one was funny because when you said that, I automatically visualized some of the things I've read.
sure, sure,
We've seen
sure.
some. Hey, some of them terrible, man. Come on, man.
Oh, there's some bad. Well, I think in general as a society, you know, we don't write that well.
That's right.
We just don't. And
That's right.
that writing thing, which is part of communication, that's a skill set.
It
And
is.
either you have it or you don't have it. And again, I'm not saying,
Right.
I'm going to win a Pulitzer Prize, with
Right.
my writing. I ain't trying to say that, but
Right.
I'd like to think that what I put on paper is at least coherent and
Right.
people can understand it. So we were
Right.
talking about how difficult it is. Number one, you really can't find people with that kind of passion, that type of dedication, and that type of skill set. But I think where a lot of organizations and events go awry, number one, they're just too money motivated.
Yep.
Their
Yep.
decision making is governed by money.
Yep.
And I'm here to tell you that
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least financially, my events aren't as I don't want to say it, as efficient as they come because
Mm-hmm.
number one, I hire too many damn people to work for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a reason for that. Number
That's right.
one, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of events fail because they don't have enough people actually working the event, number
Mm-hmm.
one. And number two, of those people working the event, they don't really give a damn about the event or the event
Right.
director. So they're not motivated to help you put out the best product.
No.
And if you're making decisions to save money, that's going to adversely affect your event. So me, I spend more money on staffing. I spend more money on signage. I spend more money on a lot of things that most event directors don't spend money on because they're trying
Yeah.
to save every dollar.
Yeah.
But see, that's not
Yeah.
my motivation. I've already told you I had a career and, I wasn't a millionaire, but certainly, I paid my bills. So this whole
Right.
basketball thing was never about the money for me. And the money that I
Right.
made from Buckeye Prep is really fun money, vacations, do this and that.
Yeah.
It's not paying. So I'm able to make decisions that are event oriented. What's best for the event, not what's
Yeah.
best for Rob Taylor's bottom line.
Right.
Consequently, I'd like to think that it's reflected in how my events kind of play out and why we've been able to kind of operate at a relatively high level for such a long time.
Yeah. Well, let me be the first to tell you if you notice, and my team knows this, but if you notice, I come to your event every year, and when I come, I always sit in on your meetings. I'll sit
Yeah,
in
yeah,
with your staff meetings, right?
yeah.
Um, I'm notorious. My group will tell you I'm notorious with when I go to events. I don't just go to. I watch operations more
Sure.
than anything else, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm always looking at things that work, things I like from a patron standpoint or didn't like, and so
Hmm.
forth.
That's right. That's
And
right.
uh, my group will tell you, I literally, I would take the sheet that you gave out to your coaches,
Hmm.
right? I
Hmm.
took your sheet and I really made that a get me recruited sheet because you hit every angle I wanted to hit, and you said it well. And so one of the reasons I was sitting in those meetings is the way you conducted that event, as big as it was, I knew how difficult it is
Yeah,
with,
sure,
with,
sure.
with events. And
Yeah.
so I saw how you ran things, and I'll be the first to tell you right here, I took the things I thought that you did so well, that worked so well, and implemented them into my camps. And
Sure,
if
sure.
if if, if Trey and Pop was on the line, they'll tell you, no, he paid attention to Buckeye Prep because I just thought it was ran well. And to me, if you look at a lot of, I would say 90% of the reviews we get,
Mhm.
the number one thing they say is very organized. You
Yes,
know,
yes,
and
yes,
I
yes.
take pride in that. You know,
As you should, Lamont,
yeah,
as you should.
because I've been, I go to events for a living, right?
Yeah.
And I understand why they believe my events are so unorganized.
There's some bad stuff out there,
Oh
man.
my
Oh,
goodness,
there's some bad stuff out there. And really that bad stuff gives us all a bad name because as a
it
parent,
does.
you've got to
It
you've
does.
you've got to decide where you're going to spend your money and what events you're going to go to, and you get gun shy, so they
Yeah,
may not go to a Get Me Recruited or a Buckeye Prep event because they've had such, bad luck with some of the other events. So
yeah,
it kind of brings us all down, brother. So we have to, kind of do things right. And I do the same thing. I mean, so what you said is pretty much a compliment. I kind of pay attention.
yeah,
I'll go to an event like Mike Melton's event, his basketball spotlight event.
yeah,
He does a fantastic job with that, tons of kids.
yeah,
And, I'll take away, the good
yeah.
pieces of that and incorporate it. And I think everybody should do that. But, a lot of
Yes,
people are, they're arrogant. They know, they're doing the best. Okay, I get that. But,
yeah.
you may not be in business for very long.
That's that's right. And
Be- Because I tell
I
you, because people are critical. People are critical. And
absolutely.
people, human nature, they want to
Oh, yeah.
kind of find
Find something.
something bad. So,
Yeah,
they're going in with a chip on their shoulder. So
absolutely.
once you get there, you have to kind of fight that.
Yeah,
But
from the gate. Yeah.
they recognize good stuff. Yeah, yeah,
That's right. That's right. Now
yeah, yeah.
you've been doing this so long and have seen. I know I've seen in my short period of a decade, just seen how the culture has changed and how
Oh
kids
yeah,
and
yeah,
parents have, from times of 5-star and playing in the heat to they
yeah.
don't want to play more than one game and be at a 9 o'clock game because it's too early type. You know what I mean? So how do you feel the culture has changed in the last, since
Yeah.
you've been doing
Well, it's changed in a couple of ways. Number one, I don't necessarily see the willingness to grind it out and to just appreciate, the level of competition. I mean, these days,
it? Mm.
kids it's not just the kids, the parents, primarily parents.
Woo.
But if they're not in the number one court in the number
Yeah,
one facility, it's
yeah,
got to be college length. It's got to be it's got to be a wood floor. I mean, they are so demanding.
yeah,
To me, as long as it's safe and there's competition,
yeah,
sign me up.
yeah,
But no,
yeah,
they're not like that,
yeah,
and they're and maybe this is not a bad thing for guys like you and I. There's an expectation that there's going to be some media coverage at every event.
yeah.
And if not, these parents are reluctant to come. They want to know who's there. Now,
That's right.
what, as you know, a couple of things about events. Number one, most event organizers don't want to bring in guys like you and I because they
Right.
don't want to spend any money. Now, they will tell a
Right.
parent,
Right.
oh, Get Me Recruited or Buckeye Prep is going to be there, but they absolutely don't want to spend any money on it,
Right.
despite the fact that they're marketing their event that
Yeah.
way. So what they want us to do, they want us to hop in a car.
Yeah.
They want us to drive 2 hours. They want
Yeah.
us to sit in that gym, do
Yeah.
all of that coverage, and
Yeah.
they won't give us gas money. Are you
Right.
kidding me? They won't. They
Right.
won't say. They're running concession stand. They don't want to say, "Hey, you need a sandwich? You
He's
want
good.
something to
Yeah.
eat?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my good. So, I used to go to all these events because I just wanted to go. I needed to be there and
Right.
whatnot. And I never charged anybody, maybe once or twice. It wasn't about pay me to come in and do this.
Right. Right.
But if I'm going to do that, you can at least offer to cover some of my expenses. Hell, your event is going to make you
Yeah.
$60,000.
Yeah.
You can't give me
Yeah.
$50 for gas. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so damn irritated at that, you know.
Yeah.
And for me and you,
Yeah.
one of the things that sets our events apart is not only are we running these events, but we're doing the media. So we're doing our own media.
Yeah.
So when I'm at my events, in addition to being the director, dealing with all the teams, dealing with
Yeah.
all the problems, troubleshooting, uh, I gotta have that camera around me. I gotta be
Yeah.
providing media coverage because that's what they want. But I don't just do it myself. Hey, Lamont, can you come up? And
Yeah.
you've been damn good about coming to my events.
Yeah.
And, I try to take care of you because
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that the parents and the players want that media exposure. Although
Yeah.
I'm going to give them the best that I can, I want as much media coverage as I can. And
Yeah.
paying for media is the cost of doing business. Just like you have to
Yeah.
buy trophies and you
Yeah.
have to get referees. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to do that. But these guys out there, man, they not trying to spend a dollar. So when you talk about the culture and things
Yeah.
changing,
Yeah.
the Instagram and the videos, the mixtapes
Yeah.
and all of that is all this whole media thing. People are really into that. That wasn't the case way back. It was just starting, back when
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
sons came. It was just starting. And, we had a guy, I'll think of his name here in a few minutes, that really did a lot. It was really on the forefront of this whole media thing, and he's really kind of blown it up, to his own brand and whatnot. But so being really soft, having high expectations, and the
Yeah.
whole media thing, those are some of the major changes that I've seen.
Yeah, no, you hit every one of them on the head. That's funny because that's what I deal with, and like you said, for a long time I did do it free because I wanted to be there. But then it's like, look, man, now my name has built to a certain level that you're going to get several teams or players just by me coming,
Oh yeah,
and
oh no
if
doubt.
you know what I mean. So one or two players that you got could cover my expenses, So uh,
Come on, come on, come on,
you know what
Lamont.
I mean.
That's
So
not that's not asking too much. I mean, you know how much money some of these events are making,
oh
and you
yeah,
tell
oh
you
yeah,
tell me you can't
yeah,
pay some expenses. Come
yeah,
on, bruh.
yeah,
I can't
yeah,
I can't get with you. So, unless it's someplace I really want to be, just out of principle, yeah, I'm just
yeah.
not going to do it because you don't really respect me and my
And what I do,
product. And,
that's right.
and my approach, which is different than a lot of scouts. A lot of guys will go in, spend a whole weekend, and they'll come out with a list of 5 to 10 players. Well, hell, when I'm there, I'm trying to see as many kids as possible, and I'm trying
Yeah,
to provide
yeah,
as many kids exposure as I can. So you talk about a 200 team tournament, and all you found was 5 to 10 guys over the course of
yeah,
the weekend. That's
yeah,
easy, man. So no, I'm
yeah, man.
watching 2 or 3 games at a time. I'm
Yeah,
leaving, going over here. So I'm
yeah,
trying to capture as much
yeah,
as I can, and then I'm trying to write and get
yeah,
pictures. So I'm taking pictures.
yeah,
If I'm gonna be in that damn gym, I'm
yeah,
gonna do what I'm there to do. And I
yeah.
see the kind of stuff you pump out. There's more volume,
Yeah.
than a lot of guys. And there's not many guys like you and I.
That's right.
When you talk
That's right.
about guys who do writing, me, you, Mike Melton,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
it gets it's not that many, man. Not that
That's
many.
right. That's right. That's
There's
right.
not that many.
And I usually I go to your event in the spring and the fall, but of course because of coronavirus, you're not having it. So
Yeah, yeah,
what is
yeah.
the plans for the next Buckeye Prep camp?
Yeah, I tell you, I certainly have shut it down.
And the knowledge. And it was a great interview. I appreciate him coming on, and follow him and go follow the hashtag HBCU jump. I'm about to do it myself, and make sure that you get on that train. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you Thursday. And then Thursday, we got another legend in the game. I love when I bring my legends on. They drop so much knowledge, so many stories to tell, so many things that you guys really should have in your bag as knowing from a legend himself. And that is Rob Taylor, the founder of Buckeye Prep Report. He's also co-founder of the NYBL, and he's a good friend of mine out of Columbus, Ohio area. I always go to his event.